You sing for senior people, don't sing for ordinary people. Tatu you that tell about what tell me. Tatu kit that about what tell me. I'm a man go tell me.
Voice with the auto. Auto no mama musu. Mama musu da o me beza ade ko abedu no musu.
Where metals were. In the middle and the one here where they are source of ventilation. This wall is
I give us so hard in a hook massing and made number keep coaster with number baby and a ton sleeves in the ton I'm
Fast into the room, which cannot move. God and felony, he may save
Hey. Yes, Abusia. See, I copy me with Cape Coast dear. Nature say, tourist attractions near tourist site. I want mono. I will say, you to me a call a pro. Na ye di ye Nico Shadie. Odehyieba Priscilla Ministry and Senator Media. And now I media and should dear Chidibiana and ya grokra. You copy ewo Elmina Castle. Elwana and ya gro. And it just semane woman say, you do one Odehyieba Priscilla. Into Odehyieba Priscilla dear. Yanjiniska na waye de agimiska agina na ansanso sika Odehyieba de omuso munjiniska ena arehosem ne se ukohwe nipa efiri echirichiri abrochi memu baabi a omabase omobehwe ekwan a de omo nananom efemu ansa no mukopie saa kuro mu so a na ayare hoye pa na eduru baabi no na ayesu ewo honom a na enye agrokra as usual amanfo hu Odehyieba Priscilla amanfo try some board Odehyieba Priscilla nchen amanfo try some betwa pictures ewo honom a amanfo mpo try say Odehyieba entonyum ema omo wo honom ansana we free honoma na ohwe reception ne bibia omode ma Odehyieba Priscilla na eye kama pa ewo honoma na enye agrokra na we echire se titi obi kan titi obi chire se wo hwe edan a esi honom na yesi dan we si edi 500 years a ebusua history no yenyina na ti program anso yemu bebere yenim nti enne de me na makohwe ena me de ba ba kire wada wo nso benya ho no na wankasa wabo wani ede wani akohwe by yourself wodi wani akwa apro na wakohwe by yourself Elmina castles ennyoma ekoso ewo honoma ebusua na asefem na areho woche edoma na abepiem ewo honoma omokoto na afi adane ne su eni yi ebia wonya kwanya enkopiem wo hoda wonya kwanya enkohwe da video we say ebema wo ehu ennyoma ekoso bebre because me capture every moment a tour guide a friend Kofi de ye call ye no o kan bibia no me capture bibia e wo honoma na enyago nti abusua talemu chuku en skip video no hwe wonko hoda hwe kosi se wo behu se ye kasa Odehyieba Priscilla entonyum ema amanfo kasa no Odehyieba watonyum amom suda amanfo request for pictures AYA media and your first time I subscribe ni me abel no so ne be the video atumu na wonsa beka ope Odehyieba Priscilla samodia wonyrai channel we say the best channel obeti Odehyieba Priscilla the daily activities and nyoma ekoso na brabum obeti ewa say subscribe me abel no so ne be the video no atumu na wonsa ebeka Why?
that age, 14 something.
You have to sing one song for the Lord. I don't know what woman I what I pay is our venue. I mean, you need me. I pay. That was the name for you to go with my family. It is seniors. Tattoo that the boats will tell me. Tattoo kids got the boat tell me. I'm a man of competition. Or but they know better than you. I remember you man, Papa. You sing for senior people, don't sing for ordinary people.
So you want her to sing?
He will sing for me, but I presented her. Everybody. I will give you gold before you leave here. Yes. Gold. Yeah. Do you know gold? What is gold? I'm going to give you some 1 or 2 letters.
Gold is a shiny yellow thing.
You know gold? Gold is gold. God is going to have God have gold.
Okay.
For you to sing now.
So, our guide,
You know, God is more than gold. God is precious more than gold. So actually, even gold is not equivalent to even gold. That's it. Now, you go. Anything over? Okay, please. You move to the museum, the Center Building, Historical Museum, self-guided. You do one for maybe 5 minutes. When the people are there, when they come out, you go together. What's your name? Odehyieba Governor said last week. Governor said last week. But only governor that have seen. No way. I'm the only governor.
Okay, so I give you so hard in a Kumasi and I made number Cape Coast, made number baby and I ton sleeves. And the ton I'm on for family of the views and Abana, camera phone. You know what they annoy me. You know what they annoy you also bring in nuclear AAC. You know what they annoy for 4. I think. I told you yes.
oh no, like initially we look for trade.
Architecture. cultural influence of the local.
Initially, they came for trade, so it was like barter trade. If you bring this one, you take this one from me. So it later turned out to be slave trade. And that's what we know.
Limestone and occasionally materials such as timber and valuable stone brought from gradually Armenians acquired the taste for European fancy architecture, which can be seen today in residential buildings.
Okay, let's.
Some of the
I'll be a tour guide. So this is going to be a walking tour, but before we start, I'll give you a brief history. So this castle is 542 years. This is the oldest and biggest castle in sub-Saharan Africa. This castle was built by the Portuguese in the year 1482. They spent 155 years in this castle. In 1637, the Dutch also took over. They spent 235 years. In 1872, the Dutch sold the castle to the British. They spent 85 years in this castle. And in 1957, when Ghana took our independence, we took this castle from the British. We have been in charge for 67 years. In all, this castle is 542 years. This castle could contain about 1,000 enslaved Africans, 400 females, 600 males. They spent 3 to 4 months before the ship arrived to take them away. So this is the brief history of this castle. Is any question before we start the tour? Is any question? Okay, so please, let's start the tour from this dungeon. Okay, so this is the biggest video dungeon here. This dungeon contains about 150 women. At that time, there were 2 containers at the corners of these dungeons where these ladies urinated, defecated, and vomited. But because they spent 3 to 4 months here, usually on the second month, these ladies became so weak that they couldn't get access to these containers. So they have to do everything right on themselves. Urinate, defecate, vomit, and have their menses right on themselves. 3 to 4 months without taking their bath. They took their last bath at St. Mansour before coming here. So here, no bath, so they took them away. Where we passed at this side were the gates of these dungeons, where better doors were. In the middle and the one here were their source of ventilation. This hole leads to a room called the magazine, where ammunitions were kept. When there is a leakage in the room, it's worsening the situation here. You could check the ground, sleeping on this floor 3 to 4 months, poor source of ventilation, and poor diet given to this woman, and the air pollution from the magazine. This made some of the females lost their lives here. So these graves were brought by a Portuguese woman, who she is feeding on behalf of what her ancestors did to Africans. And also because the coastal line of Africa was described as the white man's graveyard because of the rains, the whites were dying because of malaria and yellow fever. This made the governor know the soldiers didn't come along with their wives. So when the governor wanted to satisfy his sexual pleasure, he took advantage of these ladies. Now let's come to the compound. Okay, so because the governor and the soldiers didn't come along with their wives, because of the governor's position, when he wants to satisfy his sexual pleasure, he stood up there. That side is called the governor's balcony, and ordered the soldiers down here to open the gates of the dungeons for the females to gather here. The governor stood there to select females first. If a lady is being selected, because they don't take their bath in the dungeons, the soldiers fetch water from this reservoir and bathe the lady right at the compound. After the lady was escorted to the governor's bedroom to be raped. After the governor raped the female was brought back to the dungeons. But if the ship arrives to take these females away, and they saw that the lady was pregnant, they freed this lady. But because these ladies were not captured anywhere close to this area, it became difficult for these ladies to go back. So the soldiers built stone houses in town for these pregnant ladies. After delivering, when the child was 6 years old, the child was brought back to the castle for education. These children became some of the first elites of this country. These children also intermarried with the locals, and this has an effect on the coastal line of Ghana. When it comes to the coastal line of Ghana, you hear some of the foreign names like Johnson, Williams, Patel, Bannerman, Vanderpoy, and others. This is as a result of these children. Now let's see where the soldiers escorted the females to the governor's bedroom. So here was where the soldiers escorted the female to the governor's bedroom. This trapdoor leads to the governor's bedroom. So here was where they passed after the lady was brought back to the dungeons. Now let's see how they treated females who resisted rape from the governor. Okay, so this is called a cannonball. This weighs 25 kilos, equivalent to 50 pounds. This was what they were using to punish females who resisted rape from the government. So there was a chain here, so 8 of these were shackled on the ankle of the ladies. The ladies stood right here, whether rain or shine, for 24 hours. No food, no water, just because the lady resisted rape from the government. This also served as warning to the ladies in the dungeons. Whenever the governor selected them, they gave up so easily. So this is another dungeon. You can see the clothes there, they are not original. In 2015, we had a program called the Return of the Slaves. So females across Africa were selected to spend 24 hours here, and these materials were used to cover themselves. After 24 hours, some got malaria, yellow fever, rashes, and others, and they were rushed to the hospital. Just 24 hours. So what about the females who spent 3 to 4 months here? They went through a lot. And the saddest aspect of this very dungeon, at the top of this dungeon was the Dutch church. So as they worship their God here, they punish their fellow human beings. We ask ourselves, what God is. Now let's move to the room of no return and see how the females or the males clean their ships. One of my shots. Okay, so this is one of the male slave dungeon. This very dungeon is also called the transit room. When the ship arrived, the males who survived in the dungeons passed this side, to the room of no return. The females pass the other side. When you get to the intersection room, I will show you where the females pass. The room at the back there is called the branding room. Because they wanted to make identification on the slaves, they placed hot metals bearing symbols like W, which represents the West Indies Company, was placed on their chest, some at their backs, and even on their foreheads. Only the males were branded, but for the females, they placed tags on their neck. Some of the males lost their lives through the branding. Now let's move to the intersection room, and from there, we move to the room of no return. Okay, please, let's wait. It seems some people are there, so let's wait for them to come up. Okay, so this is the intersection room. The females came from this side, the males from the other side. At that time, there was a staircase here where the ladies descended, but now it's been changed into a drainage. The females went first, followed by the males, because they believed that if they meet, some of the males may impregnate the females. And the motive for taking them away is not to reproduce, but to make profits. For this reason, females first, followed by the males. Now we are moving to the room of no return, and we are lucky that we shall return.
Amen.
Okay, so please, when you get here, you go down, count 4 steps before you raise your head. Okay, so this is the room of no return. Here was the last place to the ships. Here was where the enslaved Africans passed. At that time, there was a staircase here where they descended. At that time, too, the sea was touching the walls of this castle, but now, due to climate change, it's receding. So the ships stopped about 1 kilometer away. They used smaller boats to convey the slaves to the ships. In the ships, those who felt sick were thrown into the sea, and when they got to a place where the ship couldn't move well, they had to offload some of the Africans in the sea. Those who survived, they took them to countries like Haiti, Suriname, Jamaica, Liverpool, Manchester, Brazil, and others. Here was where they passed. And before they started slave trade, this side was very wide, because when they brought their goods from Portugal, here was where they offloaded their goods into the castle. But when they started slave trade, they narrowed it to this small so that they could easily count and control the slaves. That's why they narrowed this. So these reefs were brought by Africans in the diaspora who believe some of their ancestors died here. And the alcoholic bottles you see, sometimes they pour libations here. So this is that in the room of no return. Now we are moving to the male courtyard and see where the males too were kept. So you wash your head as you come out. Ground floor, with the exception of these two rooms, where the male slave dungeons, where about 600 males were shared among these dungeons. Now the first floor was where the merchants, missionaries, and soldiers. First floor. Second floor was where the deputy governor was, and the last floor was where the governor himself. Okay, so now this building is the first Catholic church in Ghana built by the Portuguese. But when the Dutch took over this castle, they were not Catholics. So they didn't use this building as their church. They divided this building, used the top as their junior soldiers' nest, where the junior soldiers had their dining. The ground floor as their auction hall, where they buy and sell slaves. When the British took over, they used this same building as police training school. And when Ghanaians took over, now this building is a museum. Now these two rooms are cells. This right one is the European cell, and this is the African cell. The skull and the crossbow means danger. So now we are moving into these two cells and compare. Let's first start from the European cell. Hello? Okay, so this is the European cell. This was for the European soldiers who misbehaved in the castle. Some went out without permission. Others also got drunk and even went to the extent of raping the females at their dungeons. So these soldiers were kept here for a few hours. Here they were given food, they were given water. And the holes you see were their source of ventilation. This door is the original door. And even the structure of this door is even well ventilated. So here for European soldiers. Now let's move to the African cell and compare these two. Okay, so this is the African cell. This was for the enslaved men who wanted their freedom, the freedom fighters. They were kept here for them to die. Here, no food, no water. And the poor source of ventilation here killed the freedom fighters. No African came here and went back alive. They all died here. If someone dies here, the soldiers will tie a stone around the waist of the dead body and throw the dead body into the sea. But for European soldiers who died in the castle, they gave them a befitting burial in town. As at now, we have the Dutch cemetery in town. But Africans, they were thrown into the sea. So now you could compare these two cells and see the difference.
You don't need to be doing that. So, I don't know how all these things can happen. Maybe it's the work of God. That's all we can see.
Okay. Let's go.
So if you got anything,
Okay.
yeah, yes.
Stones.
Okay, so please, we have some books here that I recommend for you. We have A Cry and a Lamentation from Our Ancestors. This contains chronicles from African untold stories. We believe that the stories should be told. So this is information from the captives, how they were captured, how they were treated in the dungeons on their way, how they were treated in the ships. We also have a history of indigenous slavery in Ghana. Let's talk about the system of slavery practiced in Africa before the coming of the Europeans. We also have shackles in the darkness. Let's also talk about the transatlantic slave trade. And we also have a t-shirt right here which have a very powerful information at the back, written by Marcus Garvey. It's a very nice t-shirt that you should get. So if you want to get any of these things, please you can come here and get it.
I like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna put this one.
You don't like the other one?
No, I like that.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so please let's move to the governor's apartment.
Dus die meisjes die werden dan hier, kwamen ze naar boven, dan naar de afvalsroom. En als ze dan zwanger werden, dan werden ze weer in elkaar uitgesteld. Dus dan werden ze naar boven. Ja.
Please let me this side.
For the senior learning for the senior
Okay, so here was the governor's bedroom. How spacious it is. Good source of ventilation and good view as well for the governor. And this side was the governor's living room. Let's go out the governor's living room. So this side and the other side were the living room for the governor. Just one person. His living room is even bigger than the governor's. So this side was the living room. And here was the governor's dressing room. Now let's pass this side to see. Okay, so please let's come this side.
Right, so the building that we have out there,
Hello, please this side. We're almost done. Okay, so this is a cannon. This was what they were using for protection. They'll place the cannonball in, put some gunpowder in it, and light a fire at the bottom. This could go to about 3 kilometers. And the square diagram at the entrance there is called the navigation compass or a sundial. This was what they were using to check the time. They placed a stake in between of this where the shadow of the stake lies. That's the time. And the building you see right on top there is a Fort St. Giles, built by the Dutch in 1665. But when this hill was the hill the Dutch took to attack the Portuguese in the castle. When the Dutch took over this castle, they saw that this same hill could be a threat to them. So they built the fort there for soldiers to be monitoring around the castle. So yeah, you could take some pictures for 2 minutes, then we move to the last place, then we end our tour. And here was the Dutch church. This side was the Dutch.
We don't know your worship from my way. No go church. Wow.
Yeah, my little stuff. What are you
Okay, so this is the Dutch church. This church is right on top of the cathedral building. This right here is the old Dutch church. The Bible quotation says Zion is Lord resting place. Psalm 132. So they believe the Lord was here and they were punishing their fellow human beings at the ground floor. So we are about ending the tour. We said this castle was built by the Portuguese. They spent 255 years in this castle. In 1637, the Dutch took over. They spent 235 years. In 1872, the Dutch sold the castle to the British. They spent 85 years. And in 1957, Ghana took over. We have been in charge for 67 years. In all, this castle is 552 years. This is the biggest and oldest castle in sub-Saharan Africa. We also end our talk by saying we didn't have this call to pass on judgment or to create any confusion. It is actually good to preach this issue because Malcolm X once said, a person without the knowledge of his or her history is like a tree without a root. So we thank you for being here to appreciate our ancestors who died and those who survived here. We are ever grateful and we wish to see you once again. Thank you for coming. My name is Sophie. Thank you. Okay, so
Maybe I do about past person. No. Why you have the night say
boy, no, I am not going to say about the mom. Oh, no. Why I can tell me.
voice with the auto.
Also, no mamma mission. I'm missing out. My best idea. Come back to the mission.
No, nothing you want to get them now. Oh, but no, small.
Yeah.
Assassin. You need my film.
Okay, I'll cover so I. So we feel it. My papa there now. Yeah, I am going
to
Awaja, foolish boy. Okay, that's all of us right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, so take care. I'm going to drop picture.
Empatado.
Empatado.
Yeah, I can't make for their sickness.
Mistake now by joining it.
Oh, that. Because actually, me go for na na see you what you know.
I mistake now by joining it. It's now only now we a group. Only now we a group.
Aha, things are near come. Near come.
No one else.
Any soup, any hospitalities. Yeah, now do it for me.
It feels like it.
That keeps their soul steadfast and sure, whilst there be no strong. Fast into the rock, which cannot move, ground and firmly in the same.
The lady is very happy with you. Give us another last one.
When you go on YouTube,
that one will be very short, man.
when you go on YouTube, the name is Odehyieba Priscilla. When you type
No,
Priscilla,
we just one of my guys just Googled and asked. His name is a lot of it.
yeah, so yes.
So now do it. Let's do it. Oh.
We praise your name. We praise your name. To you, the Lord our God. On our knees, we bow. To you, the Lord our God. On our knees, we bow.
Thank you so much. Mommy, God bless. God has blessed you already. Yes.
One day you organize a
Or
worship.
enlarge your portion.
We have to come here for a worship day.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, you are invited.
Yes.
Yeah, don't worry. But remember my name is Governor Celeste. Elmina Castle. Okay? Happy to see you. Hoping to see you again. Don't keep long and come back. Yes, the place that always, when they get visitors, have to bring them to see what has happened this year. Okay? Took inspiration from this. God bless you. God bless you with your team.